All right. Welcome to the Tuesday night show. A little different this week because I'm not only going to welcome you, I'm technically going to be the Jay and Brian host because Mr. BSR has got prior engagement, couldn't make it this evening. So he's good. Don't worry, he's fine.
He's fine. He's playing plumber tonight.
Yeah, he's working. I didn't want to disclose, but now that Howie, our fabulous producer, has told you, he is. He is working on the pipes.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, working on the pipes. So, no Tuesday night Disc Jockey News TV show for Brian. But we are going to bring in my boy from Boston, DJ John C. over there. And, of course, Howie. And I see JC from Mexico City is here. He was also at Expo. And Expo is going to be kind of the theme of the show. We're actually going to talk about what went on that you didn't see, the things that go on behind the scenes, my perspective being that of a manufacturer, what goes into bringing gear to the show, some of the logistics that are involved as far as flying, 15 people out, getting hotel rooms, getting dinners. And, there are things that go into the show. John and Howie will speak more about sound, lighting, and the logistics of the show that we had at Beret on Tuesday night. And we'll probably touch on a little bit of music, but we're gonna try to focus at least on what went into getting to Expo, and then also some of our opinions on it. And of course, in the comments below, if you've got things we didn't see, moments that we wish we had seen, by all means, mention them down there. But kind of to start things off, my show for DJ Expo started about 2 months ago. So back in June is when I kind of started the logistics planning and meetings and getting, what gear is going to go where. So the first thing after establishing you're even going to attend a show is, what do you want to show at the show? What gear is going to be there? What's the focus? Who's the audience? So there's a lot of discussions, a lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of team sessions that, you want to strategize for what is going to best serve the customer. Once that's established, and then it's a matter of rounding up all the gear, getting all of the countertops, getting the booth design established. Then the next step is I physically touch all the gear. I test it all. Make sure everything's working, make sure everything's running, because we don't want to get there, open the show and have something not working, and your experience is obviously tarnished. So I go through and test all the gear. I load everything up, wrap pallets. I've got assistants from different people along the way. It's not just me. So don't take it that.
Now that actually took you a week, right? You had to travel.
Yeah, it took me a week to test all the gear out, update all the firmware. Because again, here's the challenge that we wouldn't normally have. If this was a normal year, the gear would have been tested and set for NAMM. And then here we are 8 months later. But this gear, some of it has not been touched or tested since NAMM 2020.
Right.
And that's a long time. Firmware has been updated. Serato has new versions. Rekordbox has new versions. You need to load new tracks. You want to update all the music, all the scratch singles. So there's the little things you kind of plan as you go. Once everything is ready to travel, now it's a matter of establishing the team. Logistically, it's easy in respects to you need to fly a bunch of people to Philadelphia. Those of you that drive in just to let you know, there is an airport in Atlantic City, New Jersey, but only one airline flies direct into it. And that airline is the fantastically amazing, I've never flown them and probably never will, Spirit Airlines.
Oh.
So they were the only plane that you could get and fly directly into Atlantic City. So we always, and in my 18 years of going to Atlantic City, I've always flown into Philadelphia. Once in Philadelphia, your options are very simple. Uber, Lyft. Now, back in the day, it was the SEPTA train from the terminal to 30th Street in Philadelphia, and then from 30th Street, the Atlantic City line, which would take you out of Pennsylvania into New Jersey and stop you at the convention center. And then as an homage to Atlantic City, you'd stop at the Tun Tavern next to the Sheraton, next to the former Miss America offices. knock down a couple, and then head over to wherever you're staying. In this instance, we actually had a bus take us from Philadelphia, came into Atlantic City. So I got to Atlantic City Sunday. Monday, I got up, and I won't have time to pull it up on my phone, but I put a post up on Instagram, and at the end of the night, I had walked 27,000 steps. Because what happens Monday is, has anyone seen my badge? So get out of the hotel room, go down to the expo hall, get the badge, come back up, give it to somebody. Hey, does anyone know if we have batteries? No, let me go to Walgreens. Go up, you could take a lot of Ubers, but for me, it's just as easy to walk it. So a lot of walking, and then we set the show. And if you've ever been to the Hard Rock Arena, it's just an arena. It's just like a concert venue. So nothing is built and established. So what you don't get to see is that all the carpet is laid down on Monday. The entire place is carpeted. So if you looked around at the show and saw outside the perimeter of the show, you would see the floor was cement. That's what it looks like when I get there. But it's all carpeted. It's all electricity is thrown through all the booths. Everyone's showing lights and sound and all that. Well, that has to be done the day before the show. So electricity is run, then carpet's laid, then the booth is constructed. And once that ends, it's, okay, what are we going to do? Adult beverages, dinners, whatever. And then you start the show, and the show runs 12 to 6. So we would arrive about 10 o'clock, work till 6, strike the booth, which just means turning off all the power, taking off laptops, taking off needles, taking off vinyl, just all prepping the booth.
Valuables, yeah.
Yeah, the things that you don't want to have just sitting up there. It could fall off a laptop stand, someone could bump a counter walking through at night, whatever. So strike the show, have a post meeting. Hey, anyone have a problem? Anyone do anything? This and that. Monday, we also had a great seminar. Priyan, Johnny, and myself gave away an S7 or an S11. Great seminar on both products. Let's see, what else? That was really Monday. Monday was a great day. It was very busy. Or no, Monday was very busy because we had the seminar and we had to do setup. Then you roll in Tuesday morning about 10, do the show till 6, post meeting, dinner, went to Beret. So each day has other events that are going on around it. If you've never been to DJ Expo itself has what they call the official parties. So, Monday night was an official party at VIP Plum. Tony Hernandez played. He was in our talk last night.
Lou Paris
also played. That was packed. Tuesday night was the Beret party for Disc Jockey News TV in the chill room, which we're in now. It also was Lodato and a couple other DJs over at Club Dare. Wednesday, start the show, came in about 10:30, fire up all the gear, shot a quick video of the booth. Booth starts, show goes, 6 o'clock comes around, post meeting, dinner, party, and then went to Club Dare to end the night with Scribble, which I've seen him probably 25 times, and he was on his numbers. Like, it was a great show. That's Wednesday, and then Thursday is the day that a lot of you that drive to the show might have already left on Wednesday or might be leaving Thursday. Even though Thursday is, traditionally the slowest day of the show, it was very busy this year. Like, I was really happy and really surprised how busy Thursday was. So Thursday is an 11 to 3 day. So it's shorter. Once the show's over, break the booth. So we literally have to put everything the way we brought it in. We have to send it back. So took care of all of that. Had a last meeting, dinner Thursday night, and then Friday flew home. And I made it a quick, little breakdown, but it goes by about that fast. It literally, like I said to someone over the weekend, I had a wedding, and I'm like, 7 days ago, I was sitting in Atlantic City, New Jersey. It seems like I was there a month ago, but it seems like I was there 2 days ago. I don't know about you guys as far as the experience, but it goes by very, very quickly. And
it does.
The show isn't over for me. So now I'll go in and double check all the gear that's come back. And again, it's just the quality control, because sometimes gear might go out to an artist. It might go out to a show that I don't, attend. It could be a clinic. You want to make sure that everything's always working. So I think it's always best to have a DJ, in the case of me, go in and test it, like set it up physically, make sure everything's going the way it's supposed to go, check the buttons, check the faders, check the effects, and then be able to put it in a box and know if we send this to somebody, they're good to go, So that is, in a nutshell, very quick nutshell, without boring everyone, what my experience was bringing that show kind of together. Now, for Howie, you had a lot of involvement in the Beret show, obviously. What went on with that, as far as like where you started, the work you had to do, things like that?
Well, first off, we had traditionally had the chill event at the Irish Pub. And then, of course, we had that year off with COVID.
Right.
And our last experience with the Irish Pub was, it was raining. So we were stuffed into a very small room. And so I looked for a different venue, and I found Beret. They were only a year old before COVID hit. Right. And it looked like a very nice venue. So I contacted them, and through some negotiations, I booked that. And then there was, I'm guessing probably 80 plus hours into planning the logistics, backup plans, things like that. And we needed them. Somebody made a comment that said, wow, it was perfect. Well, they don't see what they don't see. So that we
exactly
problems. And I got to tell you, one of the biggest helps was John Cawley, there to my right on the screen. He brought the he schlepped that sound system in and out like 4 times, I guess. Not including down from your house, but to your hotel room.
Up to the hotel on Sunday, and out to the gig on Tuesday, back to the hotel room, and then back to the car to take it home. So,
it's intriguing to me.
20,000 steps.
Yeah. Well, no, absolutely. Well, it's funny. It's just like doing a wedding sometimes. Nobody knows what actually went into the prep.
Right. I was going to make that point, that it's kind of like, it's that prep time. And, I made what I call a logistic schedule. Everybody has a lane, stay in your lane. But I also, structure it so that nobody would be bumping into each other on stage. And then I had to play the bad guy twice. And well-meaning people were on the stage. What can I do? I said, you could get off the stage, please, because we know what we're doing. And Eric was extremely helpful. He brought down some gear for us. He brought the controller and the hazer. And it went together really well, even though the air conditioning was dripping on the table when John and I were setting it up. So we adjusted, we moved, and then he was able to work without running into someone. I was able to do the lighting and get that up in the air and crank that up without anybody bumping into me. And what was really nice is John, I can't say enough, you did an outstanding job with the sound. There was not one bit of feedback on that microphone. It came out wonderful.
Yeah, it sounded incredible.
It really did. And it was just that, and I'm a sound guy, but I trust John. And he said, I can do it. I believe him. And he did it. He proved it. He did a great job. And I stayed in my lane and stayed back, doing the lights. They were up, on that. And then Bill came in and he put the step and repeat up. And then away we went. I think we did it in record time. We were ready a half hour early.
Yeah, we were good. We dropped the needle right at 8 p.m. right when we were supposed to. Everything was fired up and ready to go. And then, like we do at gigs, you do the walk the perimeter. Is it any hot spots too loud anywhere it shouldn't be? And Even Brian had come up and said, "This is a great level. Like, we can have conversations and people can hear each other."
And that was the big thing. That was big. I think you hit it right on the mark, John, because we've all been in those rooms where you're shouting in someone's ear. You cannot have a group conversation. And that was the whole idea of the chill event. Make it fun. People were dancing, but you could still have a conversation, and it didn't hurt that the food was very good and the drinks were very, very affordable.
Yeah,
as was
that's
the
great
food.
too.
So,
And as far as
it was
as far
crazy.
as our talent went, for all the different DJs that came in that had never touched a controller like Eric brought along,
Yeah.
they figured it out. They're like, "I've never used this. What is that? Serato. I've never used that."
Yep.
And we all figured it out and powered through, and the transitions were seamless. And with a lot of Eric's help, converting everyone's thumb drives into crates, we sailed right through it nice and smooth.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
what, 6 different DJs? Is that how many of us there were?
Yeah.
I knew that
Yes,
30
because we did. The guy asked us to stay open till 1, and Brian K spun. So yeah,
Yep.
6 total.
Well,
and
I
it
knew
was-
33% of us were going to know how to use it.
Yeah.
2 out of the 6.
No, Eric, you knocked it out of the park. I mean, because it was seamless. You were able to get these guys up to speed, but not only that, there was no lag anywhere, no dead air. It was wonderful.
I think it's important, especially for the mobile crowd. And I don't want to disparage club DJs or anything like that, but I know plenty of club DJs that have never done a mobile event, and that's fine. They don't have to. Their career was based on, I'm going to develop a style that is best placed in a nightclub or a bar or a venue per se. So when they start hearing the stories of what it takes to do an average event, you made a great comment about John with the speakers. I said to somebody one time about lugging heavy speakers, and like, well, you're moving them once. I'm like, no, you're moving them four times minimum. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, garage to van, van to gig, gig to van, van to garage. Like, they're constantly in flux, it seems. You're always maneuvering. And from the manufacturer side of this, if the clock rolled forward really quick to next June, it's no less time to do the next show. It's not like, oh, we've done this 20 times, we got this in the bag. You still plan. I mean, my first production was 1997. I produced a show called Bash on the Beach with Head PE, Stuck Mojo, Buckethead, Jerry Cantrell of Alice in Chains, and some other band that's another one of the not really here bands. But it was huge budget, and I learned very quickly. I kept calling all the record labels, and I could never get anyone on the phone. And finally I called, and one of the receptionists said, "What's your title?" And I said, "Well, it's my boat. I'm the director of entertainment." She goes, "Who's producing it?" I go, "I don't know." She goes, "Well, you're the one calling. You must be the producer." I was like, "Oh, okay, then I'm the producer." She's like, "Hold on." 2 seconds later, "Jay, baby, how are you?" I'm like, "Good. John, how are you?" "Great. Here's what I need." "Okay, I can't do this. But I can do this." "Okay, sounds perfect." Hang up the phone. Next company. "Yeah, hi, this is Jay Brannan, producer of the show." "Oh, hold on." And like, I learned, but it added even more work to me, but at least I could say I was a producer. But I think if you've done a wedding, if you've done mobile events, bar mitzvahs, parties, anything, you understand what goes into these things. And there is planning. We often talk about weddings being a 20 to 30 hour event. And they look at you like, no, you were only there for 6 hours. The other day I did a 5-hour wedding. I was on scene at 2:30 for fear of traffic in the area on a Saturday. I left at midnight. I had met with the clients a total of 3 times for like an hour and a half each time. And, breaking the van, getting the gear, prepping the music. The time goes up very quickly. It won't be any different for next Expo. I'd love to do this show post NAM. NAM is an entirely different animal. NAM now takes it to a level that's unprecedented because it's 20 times bigger than Expo, to be honest. and it's 20 times more work.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's 20 times more gear. I mean, we had a relatively small booth. And when you were saying the hours you put in, Howie, physically testing gear, I put in about 50 hours.
Yeah.
And if you look at the booth in totality, you think, why would that take 50 hours? Here's a box, open it, plug it in, check it, update it, connect it, run it. Like, picture you're at a wedding setting up. So let's say it only takes a half an hour. Well, you only had like 13 stations. That's only this many hours. Not everything is perfect. So there's that time that you want to put in. Plus, you got to clean things. You want it to be perfect. You know, you want the cables to all be coordinated. You want to zip tie things. You just want to make sure that the presentation is there. And especially at a DJ Expo, because the clients are, you know, it was so funny to hear mobile DJs come in and out of the booth and go, what do you think of that counter over there? Here's the problem. What if I have a water? Where am I going to put it?
Yeah.
I put it on the top. It looks cluttered. So I'm going to get this. And I have a shelf. And I'm like, oh, that's a great point. Well, what about this? Well, where am I going to put my headphones? I'm not going to lay them on the counter. I mean, that's a point that's often missed when we see photos where you have that, you know, rat's nest and like and that's what festivals are, because they've got so many lines coming up to the table. They might have lines for 10 CDJs and 5 mixers, even though they're only running 2, because they need to be able to switch gear out like that, like literally like that. And I've talked to their sound and they'll start setting up months early, literally boxing stuff up months early, so that when they get on property, they can maximize the time. And I think that's what happened with you and John, you know, and everybody over break. John, what was you got the call for sound. Where does it go from there?
Yeah, it was bringing the sound rig. So we needed speakers, all the connections to bring a controller. And I did have it set with the 2 laptops to run virtual and Serato. And I would have been on my SX3. Right. Eric came in with the better board. I say, well, mine's here. Let's keep it on the table as a backup, and you set up next, and we'll run everybody off of that, because, you know, I run Pioneer, Jay, you run Pioneer. It's easy enough to figure out. It's pretty common sense. Yeah. Once we had the sound up and had the computer running on his side, again, it was just redundancy, as I had the same stuff, and if we needed to kick it over, it would have taken seconds to have another fully operational rig. If God forbid. Well,
I had quite a few conversations with you, John, and when he told me, hey, do you know what the guys are, you know, spinning on? Is it Serato or is it virtual DJ? And I said, I don't know, but I can find out. And John took the initiative to load both on there, that at the flip of a switch, I was like, that's brilliant. That's now that redundancy and backup, plan A, plan B, plan C.
So my lighting controller Mac is now Serato.
Right. Exactly. And I thought that was brilliant, you know, and to have someone say it was perfect when it really wasn't, that's I think one of the highest compliments.
Smoke and mirrors.
It's preparation is a lot of it. Yes. When I went to pick up Kim and put her suitcase in the back, and I've loaded my truck so many times, and I open the tailgate, I'm like, where's my 4-wheeler? Where's my 4-wheeler? Why don't I have my 4-wheeler? Back to the house I go, and you know, you want to make sure you count the cables 6 times, the connections, the USBs, and you leave something big sitting on the side of the garage, and you know the second it's not there, you're like, that needs to be here. We're rolling in hotels 4 times.
Now, part of that, like you said about setting, I did that too. I actually physically set up the rig, took it down, set it up, took it down a few times, and timed myself and made sure, okay, every cable had a backup cable, you know, every type of, and what if one of you guys forgot cables for, from your mixer to the speaker? Well, I brought them too. And I know that you guys did. Everybody, and Eric was wonderful. He'd call me, hey, look, I got stuff in the truck if you need it. And I mean,
I trust you inherently, Howie.
Eric is, that's just how we do it.
Well, that's what you do. Good Guy Productions, you know.
We loaded in a crate of extra uplights. We had one of our, every person who goes out of my gear, because we're a multi-op, has a crate. And in that crate are like 4 power cords, several XLRs, several DMX, another power strip, a triple tap splitter, an HDMI cable, rolls of gaff tape, zip strips, all that stuff goes in one crate. So I'm like, Corey, let's just grab one and throw it in. So we had our full rig crate with us as a backup, which we didn't even need.
It was interesting that you mentioned that, guys made a comment about where am I going to set my water. John and I get there, the water's dripping on the table, right? Okay, plan B. We're going to move everything forward.
And it's funny.
Move the lights because they were dripping on the lights. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
This is one of the few years I can remember where we didn't have any rain at all.
Yes,
like Expo, almost 100% of the time, whether it's during the day or at night, but at some point there's rain. And famously, twice when it was the Trump Taj Mahal, we got rain, and our booth was always in the front. And the rain twice started hitting one of the CDJs. The first year was a CDJ 800.
Wow.
Because I remember someone saying, there's water on that player. And I went over to wipe it. And as I'm wiping it, it got on my head. And I'm like,
really? And
I went over to Davey. I'm like, yeah, there's water coming out of the ceiling on our players. He's like, the players will be fine. We'll move them over. Like, wow. But rightfully so, he goes, my issue isn't the players, because I've done festivals where there's, half an inch of water on this, you're fine. It's the $10,000, this shows how long ago it was. It's the $10,000 plasma, 50-inch plasma worth 10 grand that he was worried about. So I just said, I'll go find trash bags. And it doesn't look good, but the immediacy of, I'll put a trash bag over it. Okay, so that's out of danger. Now let's see, what are we going to have to do for the rest of the day? I can always move a table. I mean, even in your case, there's water hitting the table. If it's not coming down on the entire stage, you can move to the right and back a foot. Okay, now the water's just hitting the stage. Hey, guys, you got a leak. But it's that thing in us as mobiles that I think we're constantly preparing. I've got cases. I did a gig the other day and I left 2 bags behind on purpose because I carry them all the time. One's a big blue hockey bag with cables. And I literally looked in the back of the Jeep and I'm like, I haven't used anything in that bag in forever. And this is probably the smartest I've been this year. I decided to set up my main setup for the dancing section and I bought new bags. And when I was done setting up, I put all those cables in one bag and marked it. So this is the main setup. It doesn't do anything but set up, then get zipped shut. I don't take, I need an IEC cable. I'll take it. No. This has to stay closed, much like Eric was saying about that case. My cocktail setup, I actually have a power source. My MacBook, the Air that I'm talking to you guys, that's in that bag, along with a Shure SM58 with a short cable with a 1/4-inch end. So I don't have to think it out when I get to the event. And it's cut time out of setups dramatically. But I still carry 2 of my 4 extra bags. There's no scenario that's ever going to be present unless I decided to pull over on the side of the road and throw the other bags off a cliff and then go to the gig. So I know I'm covered. But there's always that thing in the back of your mind, like, did I grab the laptops? Let me grab my, and my laptop's sitting in my backpack next to me in the front seat, and behind it sits a black book that has my hard drives in it, and that's 100%. And those go to the door when I'm done on Saturday morning. I'll put them by the back door, and I clip my car keys on. And that way, there's no way I can leave. I mean, I've talked to some DJs that are like, dude, just throw you're all set. Do your stuff a week early and you're done. I'm like, you know what? My habit is the day of, I just finalize. I print the names for introduction. I do this, I do that. And you had to drive from Boston to New Jersey. You had to come from New York. Howie had to come from, what's the drive for you, Howie? 2-3 hours? 4 hours?
It's 2.5 straight away, but I stopped and picked Brian up. So it was about a little over 3 hours.
See, those,
it was fun.
Yeah.
I mean, in spite of all the things that happened, did you guys have fun? I mean,
it's a great time.
I thought it was a great show. Eric and I were laughing when, I know some people tend to panic, but the lights went out, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have to check every light because they were moved. Somebody probably hit a button. And sure enough, remember, Eric, the first light I turned over, it's not DMX. And we were both laughing.
But you know
we're
what?
not
We
panicking.
Right. Because we've been there. And that's the
We've been there,
experience that we bring with us, especially with those lights. Now, ADJ made those lights. It's a great light, but the feet are too small on them. And so if you wiggle that and you put it down off to the side, you have a tendency to hit those buttons.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I have one right here.
Yeah.
And this is what he's talking about. These little buttons here.
Yep.
If you're laying them flat, and I've had somebody, put their foot, even with the stand, they put their foot under it to move it out of the way at a wedding one time.
Yeah.
And it messes up the whole DMX chain. But like you said, we know better. We know, we just go and look.
Experience.
That's it. No panic. Just figure it out.
It's like when your Pioneer platters start going backwards the first time. You're like, wait a minute, shift sensor. I was at a prom, one hand on the sensor button, moving music up into the playlist, and I'm Googling on my phone. How do I make this go forward again? When I first bought the SX.
Yeah, I've had people, it's not uncommon when you clean a CDJ to hit the rewind.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've done it 100 times where you load a track, you hit play and nothing happens and the track's there, but you notice it's trying to go to the last track and it's like, this isn't really making any sense. And I've learned through habit to look over and see if a little red light is on that says, REW. And it's like, oh, it's in. Okay, I got you. I know what to do now.
Okay, now we've all, we had little. I don't call them problems. Situations is what I like to call them. We have a solution. What about you, John? How did it go for you? Because I was busy with my other stuff. How did it go for you?
Set up from beginning to end. I mean, for the audio end of it, it's not complicated. Once I was able to get in and make sure I have all the right cables and wire manage everything, I didn't have any issues. When the second board came in, we had to break out a couple extra cables, and that was no big deal. It's like we can work through this. So there was no real big drama. As I say, the moisture coming down was a concern, and to make sure there was enough space between the facade and the table that Brian could get back and forth.
Right.
So it was the construction, because everything had to be shifted a little this way, a little that way. But
to avoid the water from the air conditioning.
It stopped eventually. Once he had it up and running for a while, it went away. But
I got to tell you, honestly, I'm a meticulous planner, when it comes to logistics and everything else, but I did not expect the sweating air conditioner to be dripping on us and we'd have to move everything.
These things do. You get, like you say, you got to be prepared.
Yeah.
You got to be prepared. Now, just to shift gears a little, but to stay kind of on topic.
Cool.
What I'd like to do, and I'm going to encourage anyone that watches this to put this in the comments. We've talked about a big show, where genuinely everything went the way it was supposed to go. Everything arrived. It's a different logistic than a wedding or a prom or a bar mitzvah where you're physically bringing gear. But let's talk about examples of events we've done for our job where we've run into a challenge that either just threw us for a loop and turned out to be nothing, or that you learned from and then changed things down the road afterwards. It doesn't have to be a catastrophic failure, but I'll start. I'll give you a couple examples. Up until this year, I used to use one wireless mic for the ceremony on a stand, put it down about chest height, and the officiant, bride and groom, it sounded great because I would work a lot of outdoor venues where there's wind, and I just felt the lavs picked up too much wind. Well, I would then move that mic from the ceremony section for announcement and toast to a different section. And I can't tell you how many times I would move it. I would power it. I would have the cable plugged in. I would get time to introduce the bride and groom and the wedding party. I'd have, people standing around. And then I would go to speak and nothing would happen. And what it would be is I wouldn't have plugged in the other end of the cable. So I would look down in the mixer and see the cable plugged in, but I wouldn't have plugged it into the actual mic, or vice versa. I would plug it into the back of the mic transmitter, but not into the board. And that happened like twice that I can think of, where I immediately panicked. With Serato, I've had decks disappear. I don't know if you've ever loaded a track that was either not there or had a problem. And what it will do in Serato is it will black out the wheel. And then you try to load, excuse me, another track and it won't load. And the first time it happened, it panicked me until I realized, well, let me hit the button over on the side of the SX2 that goes from deck 1 to 3. And deck 3 lit up. And I had to play on deck 3 for the rest of the night. Yeah. So instead of 1 and 2, I was playing on 3 and 2. Yeah. And then on deck 1, I turned all the knobs to off. So if I looked down, I wouldn't try to think, why can't I hear the song? Mm-hmm. That's just 2 small examples. But, do you guys have any examples of real life gigs? Eric, I'm only going to make you last because you've done some really huge gigs up there in Lake Placid. And I think your stories are probably going to top our stories. Because I'm a single owner operator. I'm not doing stuff with 1,000 meters away. Somebody's got a microphone. So I think we'll go to, on my screen, my brother from Boston here, John, is on my right. So we'll start with John. John, a couple examples of what happened at a gig that you learned from, may have changed the way you approach things, or something like that.
And there's always a lot of horror stories in our business, and some of them are just miscommunications. I've had wedding coordinators set me up in the wrong location, and you're just about done with wire management. Like, you're supposed to be over there, and as a result of that, I always ask, and I always show up a little extra early. Like those kind of surprises. Not too much mechanically has ever really surprised me. We've had power go out on a few gigs. That's just after God. Howie's probably got a few battery stories how he can just power through it. But when the lights go out for normal people, the lights go out.
Lights go out. Yeah, that's all she wrote.
You just have to just look at the situation, just adapt and overcome, and just find a way to make it work.
I think the worst part is usually that immediate panic, because there's this is going to affect the rest of the night. And I didn't say this, and I'll get to Howie in one sec. One of my big first DJ experience was I was director of entertainment for a yacht company. So I was DJing on boats every night. And this is in the late 90s. So no cell phone. But I had a pager, much like something like this. So I would, it would vibrate on my belt, and I'd be like, it'd be a phone number, 911. And I would call it, and it would be one of my DJs on a boat. And I would be like, I can't get to you. You're in the water. And it was for me, it was a great way to learn how to pack extra, how to know that you can talk through your headphones if you forgot your mic, because there is no coming back at this point. The boats aren't coming back. There's 500 people on a boat. They're not going to stop what they're doing. I'm not going to water taxi out. And it would be stuff like you learned very quickly to do what I think John, Howie, Eric, and myself do, which is start at the beginning and go back. Like, I have a microphone. Okay, the transmitter's on. The handheld is on. The transmitter's plugged in. Let me see the cable. Oh, not plugged in. Perfect. Okay, done. And I would get those emergency calls of the speakers aren't working. Okay, that means the cables, the speakers, or the amplifier, or the connection from the mixer. Is the mixer on? Yep. Are the lights going up and down? Yep. Is the amplifier turned on? Yeah, it's turned on. Double check it. Hold on. And I would hear click and then Hall and Oates. I'm like, okay, got it. Thank you. I don't understand. Why?
Sometimes the cables come out of the back of the amp.
But that was the thing. So that happened once, and the next day I had a guy custom build me a case, and he put a locked screen over the amps with Torx screws, and we set the amps, and that way I knew we were okay. And someone said, "Oh, what if a fuse goes out?" The fuses were on the back, so that was okay. But it would be those things weren't plugged in. I mean, as the DJs that watch DJNTV understand, it's traditionally something easy. Traditionally, you know, if it's internal electronics, you might be out of business. So you grab your backup. The other night was a great example at Beret. I had the choice of 2 pieces of gear. Either one worked. There was 3 laptops in front of me. I mean, like everything we could have possibly needed was right there. Now, Howie, coming from the Max's Kansas City days of sound and bands and punk, you know, give us a couple examples of the times you've been faced with that uh-oh moment of like, this isn't working, this isn't going the way it's supposed to. What do I do now?
It's gonna come down to time constraints. And I have been caught where I thought I had enough time and I was so rushed that I barely made it for showtime. So I had to develop a system for myself that would be able to be set up quickly and avoid that rush, or what if something else happened type of thing, or hey, oh yeah, that band couldn't make it. We got this other band's coming in and they need XYZ mics, and their rider says that they need to have this, that, and it's like, okay. So one of my big things would be going back to the power issues and the time constraints. Everybody's run into this now. A lot of the venues are doing this, and simply so that it's not like the old days where you could go in there 4 hours early and you could, you know, take as long as you want, you know, to break down. I go to a place like the Hilton in Philly, and it's a wedding factory is what it is. They got 4 big ballrooms, and they'll rent. They said, oh yeah, you can come in at such and such a time. And so I came in with the rock and roll cart loaded up, and I opened the door, and there's a wedding shower going on. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm supposed to be setting up at 3. And so I walked up to the DJ. I said, what time do you end? He goes, 4 o'clock. And I'm like, well, I have to start at 5. And this is where diplomacy comes in. And it's like, okay, you know, I have to start at 5, and, you know, I've gotten it down to where I can set up lights and sound in an hour, but I'm not going to have an hour because he ends at 4. And then he's got to get out and I get in. And so I worked out a system with him quick. I said, how about this? You load out from the left and I come in from the right.
Yeah.
So when you're breaking down, I'm setting up. And that worked. And it worked because I wasn't a Richard about it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, it's in my contract. You know, that doesn't matter. All that stuff doesn't matter. The show must go on, and it must go on time.
100%. Have you had the time? I mean, I'm sure we all have, because that reminds me of a venue that I've done where it's like you open the door with your cart and there's people. And you're like, and I knew the particular DJ last time it happened. I'm like, bro, what time are you done? He's like, they extended. I'm like, what do you mean they extended? Like, I'm loading now. What time do you start? 5 o'clock. And it's like 3:45. He's like, I don't think they know that. And I had to get the banquet cap, and I'm like, do you not know we have a wedding in this room that starts at 5 o'clock? Like, I'm here now because they said I couldn't get here at 3 because the other event ended at 3.
Right.
He's like, I forgot. We've extended them till 4. I'm like, you know, so I just went in the hallway and started opening up cases and literally putting, you know,
pre-staging.
Just pre-staged everything. And I said, well, I have to set up over there. So I just literally, and I told the other DJ, the second you're done, you know, and the banquet captains, what can I do to make this work? I said, I need a 6-foot table with a black skirt. And, you know, literally got the table set up in the hallway, and then had a busser come out and help me lift the table up, bring it in. All I had to do was plug it in.
Yeah.
You know, not fun. Have you, now, since you come from a bigger setup than I do, or John does, or Eric does, initially being in sound and dealing with big clubs and big events,
Mhm.
Have you run into anything at a small event that's just like at a wedding and you've kind of just been, wait a second, or have you found that the way you prep for events, you're always a step ahead?
These days, I am a step ahead because I did get bitten early on. And that actually, the necessity is the mother of invention. Was I needed to do a ceremony thing outside, and there was no power at the designated outlet because it's outdoors. It probably got hit by the riding lawnmower because it was bent over, and I was like, oh, this is not going to work. It was on the 18th hole, and I know, oh boy. So I ran, it must have been 300 feet of extension cord. It looked ugly. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to build my own battery powered speaker because there wasn't one available yet. So that's when I built the Howie box. And ever since then, I thought, I got really into battery technology, and my coffin with my controller in it and laptop is completely battery powered. So I open that up, literally can open that up and just take the two XLRs, two speakers. I have my new favorite toy here. I am able to, what did I do with it? Oh. Anyway, I got one of these. It's like a lunchbox. And this one's an Energizer, but they got Jackery and so forth. I got this. We use this at Beret. I powered two iPads, my laptop for what were there 6 hours, and I still have 4 bars on here. So, I did do a test with this before, and I was able to, a 12-inch top I ran for over 10 hours. So I was like, whoa, wow. I can use this as a pass-through and not have to use the Howie box. The Howie box could be strictly ceremony, but now it has happened to me at venues where the power goes out and the music's still going, the lights are on because they're battery powered. And the only light in the place is the emergency sign with that white thing. And that only lasts for a half hour, 45 minutes because it's just to get people out in an emergency.
Right.
So they were surprised. They were like, how are you doing that? And I said, battery powered. And I said, if it's okay with the venue, we can continue with your reception. And they were like, oh, absolutely. Yes. And it was really wonderful. They just lit some candles and put them on the table, and we kept the party going. And eventually those emergency lights, they faded away. And it was just such a nice glow about the room.
I bet.
And for lack of a better term, I got to be the hero for the day,
Well, it's not something you can really, I'm in Southern California, and we do what's called rolling blackouts.
Yes.
They will tell you your area may experience a 30-minute power outage due to high temperatures and an over demand of power. Now, knock on wood, I have not had power drop at an event. When I went from the halogen, 4,800 degree Parcan uplights.
Oh, my favorite.
And then went to LED back in my Chauvet 199B color wash that I bought at DJ Expo back in 2007. Bought 6 of them, and they were very expensive, and they gave me a good deal, but it was close to $1,000 for 6 Parcans.
Right.
My selling point was, are there going to be children at this wedding? Yes, there are. Well, if you'd like to go with uplighting, and it was still newish, so it's like, what's uplighting? Oh, I'll put colors around the room. These are LEDs, so they're room temp or lower. So a child's hand, and I did a wedding for a doctor, and his niece came over and put her hand on the light, and he took a photo and sent it to me in a thank you card. and said, you should show this to your clients as an example of why your lights are safe. When I went to the quad 4s, I actually said to somebody, summertime wedding, I said, and don't worry, if you go with the uplighting, I know rolling blackouts are a concern. They're like, yeah, to be honest with you, we were going to ask you what you do. Well, not to worry. I can still safely have the room lit because I'll have all battery lights around it. So I can, you don't have to worry about your guests being in the dark. No, I don't have a generator. No, I don't have a Howie box. So you will have no music. I did do a video where I had a small USB, like, this kind of thing. And I plugged in a USB A-B cable, turned it on, plugged it into the back of a DJX SR. It lit up. I plugged in the microphone and I was able to make an announcement. So if I had no power and a USB power source, I could make an emergency announcement. And that's only, of course, if my speakers were battery, which they're not. So, but, I think it made sense to me at the time. But, I think we have to kind of look at things from that perspective,
So
and
now
see what's going on.
we have time for the big gun in the room there.
Yes, Eric.
Production company, Eric.
Nothing makes my heart pound more than not seeing a thumb drive react or a hard drive having an issue.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I hate that.
So I've learned that, I email the main songs to myself so I can retrieve them if I have to. That's, a kind of a cloud backup service. But I'll take it back. Yeah, this is using CDs back maybe 20 years ago. And I lost one side of the deck. So I've got one side playing now. And it was such a headache. And the thing was just, the deck was just dying on me. I couldn't track through. It wouldn't track through like track to track. So I had to hold my finger down the fast forward button to get to the next song on one deck. Had to talk in between each song. Luckily, it was a Christmas party, so it wasn't a wedding or anything, but still, I sat down, I got behind my table, and I'm like, please, 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 figure this out. How am I going to get through this? And so we did. It worked out all right. People probably wondered why I talked so much that night, but we got through it, and things happen. They're machines, they break. And nowadays,
how far away do you keep all your backup gear at an event?
How much do I bring, or?
No, how far away from you do you have your backup gear?
Well, all of my vans are sprinters or whatever. So we're, it's on site. There's always stuff on site in the van.
Right. Because it seems now with the technology, that XZ that I use, somebody said, what about backup for the laptop? I'm like, I already have that. It's right here. Plus I have the other laptop.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I came into it late 2011 because I was scared of laptops. All you guys had laptops and were doing great. And my second laptop gig, the CPU light lit on the first beat of the first dance song. I swear it was a Lenovo ThinkPad. And I had a MacBook Pro and it was a loaner from Pioneer and they did EDC and they said, here, we'll give you a Lenovo for the weekend and we'll give you back the MacBook Pro. And I told Pulse, I said, the first song hit and it was In the Mood. And all of a sudden this red light started blinking and I looked close and it said CPU.
Say 9%.
And I had to do the entire gig and I lost 10 pounds of sweat.
Yeah.
So you were in the mood, but the computer wasn't.
No, it was not. And that's one of the Mac reasons that I stuck around with that stuff. But it's so, the old days, the CD wouldn't play or I reversed the RCA cables or, What's another good one from you, Eric? Because I know you do a ton of gigs.
So here's one that became a success story. It isn't DJ related, but it's production related. This one guy, he was a new guy. He goes, so those gobos we use, those glass gobos, what do they look like anyways? And I'm just basically go, here, this is what it is. So I hand him the case, right? Later I said, hey, Chaz, I need that gobo back. What gobo? The glass gobo, the $500 glass gobo for the sponsor that I'm going to put on the ice shooting from the top in half an hour when the show starts. I don't have it. What do you mean you don't have it? I gave it back to you. No. Well, I might have put it on your table. Okay. So think real hard. Where did you put it? I need to put it in the gobo projector and I need to shoot that on the ice because that. So anyways, it didn't happen, but we had produced a a blank of it on just a regular clear piece of like, God, what is it? Not a cellophane, but
Oh, like the transparent ones?
kind of like that. Yeah. I quickly took this 80G light. It's the Icon profile. And I took it and I put it in. How hot could I get this before it melts? That one melts. Okay. Bring it down to 200. 255 didn't work. 200 didn't work. 180 did. So I was able to take that gobo 51 feet in the catwalk and shoot it down on the ice. So the sponsor's logo was down on the ice and it worked.
That's awesome.
I sent a message to Jose the next day. I'm like, Jose, by the way, it will work. You can use a clear transparency.
If you keep the temperature low, right?
Yeah.
Just got to keep, 180 out of 255 was the percentage you could use.
I have to know. Did you ever find that $500 gobo?
No idea. It's in the arena somewhere. We have no idea where it is.
Now, people don't, some of the viewers might not realize a glass gobo is custom made and they do cost $500.
Yep.
And they're beautiful.
Oh,
they are.
Yeah.
I've shown that. You ever seen the
silver dollar, maybe smaller, but
there's one of the moon. Like if you look up glass gobo, if you Google it, there's a famous one of a moon. And I showed it to a client and they were like, I want that at my event. I'm like, okay. And I came back to them and I'm like, here's the price tag. And they choked.
Yeah.
They're like, you've got to be kidding. I'm like, no. I said, if you want to buy it, I'll rent you the light to use it.
Right.
But for me to buy it, it's this much because I have to do the groundwork. But, I mean, you're talking $500, $600, $700 sometimes.
Yeah, it's multiple layers because this was like a 4-color, so it was.
They look amazing.
And there was a sponsor. They had given our group $100,000 to do the event. So they're sponsoring the whole opening ceremony and their logo had to be on the ice.
Oh, yeah.
It had to be. Yeah.
And a glass 4-color.
Okay. Hey, we've got like 2 minutes left. John, take us out. What do you got?
I'd just like to say thanks to the really professional team that I had a pleasure of working with. This is my first time doing the show with the DJNTV guys, and by far the most professional crew that I've ever had the pleasure of sharing a stage. On the phone with talking to Eric after all was said and done, I went through the bag and checked my cords and cables. I wasn't missing one, and I didn't even have one of his. That's how efficiently we packed up.
There you go.
In the dark.
That's perfect.
We did so well. So thank you guys for a great experience, and I'm happy to be a part of the next one. So.
And I want to thank you guys for really helping out here. It was quite an endeavor to pull off, and you guys are flawless. So thank you so much. And
it will be a blast next August 9th. Mark the calendars.
Yes. 9 to 11, right? Yep.
I already booked it so that nobody can take it from under us.
Nope, it's ours.
And, hey,
the new hours are 9 to 11.
No, I was thinking the date of the show is 9th to 11th. I think I saw.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I call it the 8th to 11th because of the Monday seminars.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. August 9th, that Tuesday. Yeah, it's going to be good. I mean, I'll put it this way. I was approached by somebody who I said I would hook up with Howie from the disc jockey side. I'm like, to be honest with you, this is really a separate show. But I mean, I'll get you his information. Like, yeah, we heard it was a real success. The problem is they'll want to move it and it won't be the show that it is.
Right.
And I've seen this in Vegas and I don't want to really see it in New Jersey. Yeah. This is where you can go and have a great time and not feel like it's, look how good I am. You're just going to have some music behind you, have some great food, great drinks at amazing prices, and just enjoy networking and being around like-minded individuals who are all very pro, very cool people. Well, it's a little more work when we don't have the BSR with us, isn't it, Howie?
Yeah. You know what? I have an idea, for what you just said. Why don't we call it a chill event or something?
That's a great idea. We could even have posters made with pictures and
yeah.
I think this would I think we can work. We should work this out. We'll have a meeting. Right. Have your people call my people.
All right. We're going to put a fork in it, guys. Thank you so much.
That's it, everybody. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week with the BSR.
Yes, he'll be back.